And today we're going to be talking about using Pinterest, particularly with an emphasis on using Pinterest as a B2B marketer. We appreciate you taking out time from your day to attend the webinar. Today, our webinar presentation is about 50 minutes long, so we hope you can stick with us for it. Obviously, if you need to go, we totally understand. And also, we will send you a recording of the webinar tomorrow. So if you do have to dodge out, don't worry, we'll send a recording around tomorrow. I am here with Elisa Meredith well, first of all, this is me. Hi, I'm Susan Moeller. I'm from BuzzSumo. I'm the business development manager over here at BuzzSumo. And I am here with Elisa Meredith at elisameredith.com and also of Scalable Social Media. And I am thrilled to have her here because she has been a huge help to us in um, our beginning Pinterest journey at BuzzSumo. And we're going to tell you more about that in a minute. But for now, I just wanted to let you know that she's here with us and we're really excited to talk with you about Pinterest. If you do have some questions during the presentation, just go ahead and enter those in the question box. And if possible, we'll answer them during the webinar. If not, we will circle back to all of the questions and cover them later on. So welcome, Elisa.
Thank you so much, Susan. I'm really glad to have this opportunity, and so are all my friends, because I do get a little bit of harassment for my excitement about Pinterest. It seems to come up an awful lot, so I appreciate being able to talk about my favorite social network and my favorite content tool, BuzzSumo. Really appreciate it.
We're really glad to team up with you.
Thank you. So let's get people a little excited about Pinterest if they're not already. Some interesting facts about Pinterest is that there are 100 million people on Pinterest. That's a lot of people. Yeah. And it's not just all women looking for recipes and wedding dresses, although we're there too. But men are actually the fastest growing demographic on Pinterest. So we have a little Ryan Gosling here because there are actually more men using Pinterest than are subscribed to either GQ or Sports Illustrated. Well, combined, actually. That sometimes surprises people because they don't picture men going on there to look for man cave ideas or barbecue recipes, but they are indeed. And something cool about users of Pinterest in general, they're not typically there just to look. They are there to save. They are there to click. So 70% of Pinterest users will very commonly click and share and save pins that they find. So next slide. Now, there's an interesting Shopify study. Of course, Shopify, a huge e-commerce platform, that showed that people who come to e-commerce sites from Pinterest are actually 10% more likely to purchase than users of other social networks.
That's really interesting.
It is, isn't it? And something even more significant, if you're a seller, is that they tend to spend twice as much as those who are referred by Facebook.
Wow, more people, more money.
Yeah, exactly. And that study, I mean, I've seen different figures, but Pinterest does always come out on top, higher than Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, or Google+.
Oops.
So,
whoa, got a little crazy there with the scroll button. That was just a test of our adaptive techniques.
Yes, we're very excited. Okay, but we can go to the next slide.
Bam.
All right. Now, Pinterest is a huge driver of online traffic. I know it is for me and my clients. In fact, Shopify, again, with their study, found that it's the #2 overall source of social media traffic. So that #2 after Facebook. And it's interesting to note that with all the other social networks, Google+, YouTube, Twitter, StumbleUpon, LinkedIn, and Reddit, Pinterest brought in 3 times more traffic than all of those combined. So it's huge. And I don't want to lose the B2B people here because there's definitely a great use for Pinterest for B2B as well. Now, have you ever been to the Mall of America, Susan?
I've never been. I'm like so behind on my shopping expeditions.
So am I. But I hear it's pretty big.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the reason I bring this up is because people on Pinterest pin 2 million product pins per day.
Wow.
And, and that is 20 times more daily shoppers than go to the Mall of America every day.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah, so if you picture 20 Mall of Americas, that's what's going on Pinterest every day.
Man, Pinterest can represent.
Yes, it sure can. And 93% of Pinterest users say they go there to plan their purchases. I do.
Hmm.
Okay, so the next slide, he's so cute. Mobile users actually make up around 85% of Pinterest traffic, and it's actually trending even higher. And orders from Pinterest on mobile device users, that's increased by 140% in the last 2 years.
Hmm.
So if you're going to use Pinterest, make sure your site is mobile friendly and get ready for the sales.
Hmm.
Okay, so that's all very nice for e-commerce, but what about other businesses? What about B2B? What about service businesses or event locations? Well, you can definitely still take advantage of Pinterest. One thing that usually will help get your marketing team on board is that you show them that Pinterest accounts and Pinterest boards can get ranked on Google. Everybody likes that.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, and because B2B and service businesses are somewhat slower in adopting Pinterest, you can have an early adopter's advantage if you get started real soon. So that's always nice. So the next slide, what about leads though? If you are a marketing company or you're B2B, traffic is great, sales, you probably don't have an e-commerce site. So what we really want are leads that we can use. So this is Scalable Social Media's HubSpot portal, which breaks out traffic and leads from different social sources. So if you look at what ranks highest here, Pinterest by a landslide for visits and contacts as well.
Hmm. Do you spend more time on Pinterest, do you think?
I do now, but that's got to be a factor. However, the reason I do is because without even trying, I was getting amazing results.
Hmm.
So, I mean, it was surprising to me. I have another client who's a nutritionist, and we decided to try to use Pinterest to get leads for him. Wasn't sure if that would work, and it's amazing. I mean, he gets more leads from Pinterest than all other sources, not just social media, but we're talking organic, we're talking direct traffic, more leads from Pinterest than anywhere else.
Wow. Yeah, I actually sent this slide to one of my colleagues today.
Oh, good. Yeah. Feel free to take a screenshot, share it with your team if you think it will help them get excited about Pinterest. And you might be wondering, okay, really, is my business really fit for Pinterest? One way you can kind of get a hint about that is that people might be pinning from your site already.
Dun, dun, dun.
Right? So it might be going on, you just don't know about it. And so this is how you can find out. Go to this URL here, replace site name with your URL. And Susan, we did this little exercise with BuzzSumo last week, and what did we find?
Yeah, it was simply shocking. We had an estimated 324 pins, and I had no idea that people were actually pinning from our site. So it really was an eye opener for me. And then I also started doing a little bit of research on our competitors. So now I can compare what's coming from their sites with what's coming from mine. But yeah, I wouldn't have said that we had a real active Pinterest presence. And I'm sure that 324 pins does not a power user make. But I was pretty happy to see that people are pinning and to know that we have engagement there.
Yeah, so people on Pinterest are clearly interested in BuzzSumo content.
Mm-hmm.
So I would recommend anybody try this one.
Awesome. Yeah, so hopefully we have you a little bit excited about using Pinterest, especially as a B2B marketer. And so I wanted to give you some ideas at the beginning of different companies in the B2B space who are performing well in Pinterest. And I'm relying on Tailwind to provide this data. So these are some of the examples that they've provided of Pinterest B2B brands who are doing a really good job. The first is GE, and you'll see me a sample of GE's page here. They're a great example of using topics outside of their product range. And Elise is going to talk more about that in a minute. But for now, think about what you think of when you think of GE. You might think of consumer products or electronics, but take a look at their boards. We have the art of innovation, mind equals blown, do it yourself science, food for thought, and then my favorite, hey girl. Hey Girl is an entire board devoted to geeky pickup lines like this one. If I could rearrange the periodic table, I'd put you and I together. Or I heard you like music, so I invented the phonograph. So, definitely a good example of connecting with your audience beyond your product niche. Now, another example that Tailwind also brought to my attention is organic SEO. And what they're doing with this board at with their Pinterest page is really emphasizing a value that they have. And the value is green living. If you look at this, there are a couple things that are related to SEO, but you also have great gimmicks and gadgets, go hashtag green tips, recycled creations. And these are just a few of them. So, green living is definitely a popular topic on Pinterest, and organic SEO is tapping into that and linking it to a value that they share.
I kind of want that necklace. All right, so
You can do that later.
Question. I'm sorry.
Shopping even during webinars
okay.
on Pinterest.
I know, I can't help it. So a question a lot of people have, and this slide always throws me, but is Pinterest search or is it social? So there's been kind of a debate about that. So if we move to the next slide, I will make a case for social.
Oh. A lot of people.
It is a lot of people. Well, it's 100 million people, right? 100 million people you could mention, you could repin their pins, comment on their pins, message them directly if they follow at least one of your boards, or you could invite them to a group board to pin with you. So these are social activities. So it kind of makes sense why people lump it in with Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter and Google Plus, because in theory, we could be very social on Pinterest. However, if we go to the next slide, it's search. I mean, there are social elements. However, when Pinterest added guided search with its emphasis on interests, showing us related or picked for you pins, adding in promoted pins, all of these things are really designed to help us discover something or someone new. There's no way to list people or make circles, and I think that's by design. They really want us to keep widening out and finding new things. So if you think about it, if you are a pinner yourself, think about the way that you use it. It's not so much to share with other people, it is to collect and store for yourself.
Interesting. That's a big distinction.
Yeah, it really is. And in fact, Pinterest founders and the CEO came out and said that Pinterest is not a social network because you're using it for yourself, not others. And that really makes sense. So it's a little different, requires somewhat of a different strategy, but I think it makes it more fun.
I also think it makes it more valuable, especially because of what you mentioned earlier, that that B2B brands are not in the Pinterest space as much right now. So you have an opportunity to really jump in at the beginning of possibly the world's next great search engine.
Ah, very well put. Yeah, I agree. Okay, so on the next slide, we have a quote from the CEO and founder of Pinterest about what he wants Pinterest to become. A tool where people plan their future. And it really is already becoming that way. I know even 3 years ago when I was buying a house in a new city, I would pin the houses I was interested in so that other people could see them. But this was my way of sorting information, collecting information, and making a decision on a really big purchase and something that would impact my future for years to come. So he's going to get his wish, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Now, so Susan, did you ever have a beach vacation when you were a kid?
Yes, I've been to the beach. I had a beach vacation. Very fun.
Good, me too. I think everyone should have one.
Definitely.
I want to take you back there to playing in the sand with maybe your siblings, your parents, taking a walk on the beach. Not really looking for anything, but then you find a sand dollar.
Ooh.
Yeah, or you see a bright orange starfish. I mean, that you remember that feeling? You can kind of feel it right now. It's that
Yeah.
feeling of discovery. So that's what Pinterest is. People are wandering around, not not maybe looking for something, maybe not, but then they find something,
Hmm.
and it's that thrill of discovery. So if we as business owners, as marketers, can tap into that and give people that thrill of discovery, uh, they are going to repay us for that.
Hmm.
So with that in mind, we move to our cute little spotted dog. So I often call Pinterest a rabbit hole because you can get lost so easily, but in this case, we have a dog maze. So this is to illustrate that we need to be very broad in our thinking on Pinterest. So um, thinking beyond that one product that you sell, the one problem that you solve for your consumers, to a bigger picture of what your buyers want out of life. So you can see the dog is really eyeing that bone down there in the corner.
Mm-hmm.
But if he's on his way to the bone and he takes a left turn and then a right, hooks around and turns around, and he ends up at the walk, he's going to be just as happy.
Right.
So people go on Pinterest sometimes searching for something they think they want, and then they find something they didn't realize they needed, and they're just as happy. So if we can be a little broader in our thinking, we can be that walk or that tennis ball.
Hmm.
So let's look at an example. So if you are, say, a financial planner, it doesn't seem like a real good visual subject for Pinterest, does it?
No, lots of spread pictures of spreadsheets.
Ugh.
Exciting.
Yeah, yeah. However, I mean, your customers want not just to handle their money well or make good investments. That's a really just oversimplification of them as a human being. What they really want and what you deliver in a narrow way is a better life and a better future for themselves and their
Mm.
families. So, what they could be looking for um, might be planning for retirement. So right there, you could have a travel board about best places to retire.
Hmm.
They might be thinking about choosing a college for their kids, so you could curate a board of articles about that. They might be interested in affordable, fabulous vacations, another travel board, or really popular on Pinterest, do-it-yourself tips to save money at home.
Hmm.
So while you are serving your customers with this good information, you're also drawing in new potential customers who might be looking for, let's say, ways to feed a family on a budget. They have no idea that a financial planner could help them until they start seeing your content. They see that you are actually interested in things that matter to them,
Mm-hmm.
and they might think, maybe a financial planner is a good idea.
Right. That's good.
Yeah. So, I mean, we have some idea of what people are searching for, but you can really use guided search to see the words people are using. So here we have this financial planner example again. So we know people might be looking for how to save money on groceries, but maybe we want to get a little more specific. So if you put that into search, it's going to give you, see that bar below, yep, frugal living, budget tips, meat. Um, so you could come up with some really creative board ideas by using these tips. So you could create a board called Articles on How to Save Money on Groceries,
Hmm.
or Shopping List to Help You Save Money on Groceries, something like that, and then try to use those keywords in the description of the board and the description of the pins that you add there.
Wow, I think this is a hugely valuable feature of Pinterest. Even just with BuzzSumo, a lot of times people will come to us and they'll say, "How do I find some words to look up?" And so they want to go beyond what AdWords offers. And I think this is brilliant and such an easy presentation of how to find additional keywords and search terms for your product area.
It is. I find it so much less intimidating than other methods.
Mhm. Yeah.
And here's another example. So for marketing, let's say you are a content marketer, but you know that creating a board called just content marketing might be a little too broad,
Hmm.
might be a little too much competition. So if you enter content marketing into search, you get all these ideas for other words people are pairing with content marketing in their search. So you might decide to create a board that is visual content marketing strategy.
Hmm.
So using those keywords, I mean, everybody here probably is familiar with the concept of a long tail keyword. So the more specific you can get, the less competition you're going to have, and the more chance you have of delivering what people are actually looking for. So like you said, just really easy keyword research. Here's a B2C example. Let's say you sell wedding shoes. Well, as on Google search, it's going to be really hard to rank well for just wedding shoes. But maybe you specialize in sparkly wedding shoes. You could. There are lots of them out there. So you would definitely want to create more specific boards than just wedding shoes. I mean, you know that your audience is also going to be looking for wedding dresses. So you could start creating boards for that as well to draw in those people to bring attention to your sparkly wedding shoes. Okay, so another question I get a lot is, why should I pin someone else's content? And that's kind of a typical question for any social media platform. But if we're looking for traffic, I mean, is there any benefit to sharing someone else's content? So we're looking at Social Media Examiner's, some of their recent pins. Social Media Examiner, they know what they're doing. So there's a lot of their content there, you can see, because they have a huge team that creates a lot of great content. But even they, with all of their content power, are sharing other people's content. So going back to our wedding shoes example, if you only ever pinned sparkly wedding shoes all the time, that would be a really boring Pinterest account.
Yeah.
Because we need to serve the needs, the broader needs of our audience. So you do not have to go start making wedding dresses in order to pin wedding dress content, right?
That'd be a bit of an overreaction, possibly.
Yeah. So become a really good curator of great content that will draw people back to you.
Good. Well, those are great tips. And here's another one.
Analytics. Pinterest Analytics, they are free and they are on business accounts, not personal. But this is one of my favorite things to check is audience interests. So what this is Pinterest looks at the people who follow you and they see what else they're into. So, I mean, you might at first glance think, well, what does furniture have to do with marketing? But I could create a fun board that would be creative office furniture.
Yeah.
Right? Or inspirational quotes for marketers. I mean,
gadgets for marketers.
Oh, so easy, right?
Yeah.
So with a little creativity, you could use photography. So what makes great blog photography? You know, tweak it a little bit, obviously, but you're getting an idea of what your audience is into and serving more of their needs. Now, just below that are brands that your audience is into as well. So knowing that, you can look at what they're sharing, and you can repin their stuff, you can follow them, and just get ideas by looking at what works on their account as the things you could share that you already know are going to be of interest to your audience.
Great tips. And, you know, you can probably tell going into this that Elisa is bringing the expertise and to the webinar. What I'm bringing is humility. And so I got to tell you some great examples of B2B Pinterest pages. And now I'm going to give you a cautionary tale. So this is what I like to refer to as the sad, sad story of the BuzzSumo Pinterest page. And it's also how Elisa earned a very special title that I'll tell you about in just a minute. So I had talked with Elisa. We had done a webinar together, and I listened to some of the other webinars at the Superheroes of Marketing podcast, and they were talking about Pinterest a lot. And so, you know, I chatted with one of our directors, and you know, he said, go for it, set up a Pinterest page. So I did. I was at a conference and I set it up in the morning. Took me, you know, like 15 minutes. And I think in the back of my mind, I thought that it was sort of like Facebook, where you might be creating a new page for someone, but it's not, and it's public in theory, but it's not really public until you decide that it is. So I did a few minutes on the Pinterest page and I headed out the door to a conference I was at. And I felt good about myself until this arrived in my inbox. It's from Elisa. So she says, the BuzzSumo Pinterest account, it needs to get some TLC ASAP. I would seriously think it was a spam account that was playing off the BuzzSumo name. So I was just so shocked and like, oh no, what have I done? I've ruined us. So she did give me some good ideas to follow. She told me that I needed to add a profile image. And so, I'm at this conference. I don't have any photographs and or any images to use. So I had on my laptop the backside of a business card design, and so I'm using that really quick to edit it and make it a profile image. I wrote a description. Apparently, I missed this fill up those boards right away. Or I just had to go have a little lie down after this. I'm not sure which one. But anyway, I did take her suggestions and I also really looked at her page to try and get some other ideas. And so at that point, I started kind of telling her a little bit, and well, I was grateful for her help. And we also have christened her with the name the patron saint of Pinterest and the godmother of the BuzzSumo Pinterest page. So I now feel completely justified. Anytime I have a Pinterest question, I just call up the page's godmother and she swoops in to help us out. So we've decided together that as part of our webinar, she is going to take a look at the page as it stands now and give you guys some, I guess, real life examples of how you can improve a baby page. So I'm going to turn this over to Elisa now, and she is going to go to our page and begin to talk you through the different things that she would do to make the page better. So Elisa, let me turn this over to you.
Okay, thank you for still. No, it had been like a last minute thing. I thought it maybe had been up for a while. But yeah, I didn't mean to give you a heart attack at inbound.
No, it's
uh,
okay. I recovered.
okay, good. Well, I just I care. Pinterest can be so powerful. So, yay, you added a profile image. Can you see my screen okay?
I can see it. Yes.
Okay, great. Um, so I am very happy to see that you added a description. So thank you. Like you mentioned, there are still some empty boards here.
Mm-hmm.
So a little trick I like to do is to create a secret board.
Hmm.
So when you create a board, you have that option to have it public or secret. Create a secret board because a lot of times you'll have a great idea on the fly. Oh, I need to create a board for this.
Mm-hmm.
So you might just enter the title and maybe one pin, and then you don't have time to fill it up. So leave it secret until it's full, till the description is great, till you have tweaked the title and are happy with it, rather than having empty boards.
So you're saying fewer boards instead of empty boards.
Yes, fewer boards instead of empty boards. Another thing I would do, your very first board that people are going to see is photos of the day. So I'm not saying you can't have fun boards, even though it's not really relevant. However, I would put this down the bottom.
Okay.
And I think the biggest reason for that would be people on mobile are only going to see your first few boards.
Hmm.
And this is not probably the first impression that you want to give them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Another thing I see is, okay, Pinterest how-tos. This is not a terrible title for a board by any means. However, yes, I know, high praise. However, Pinterest how-tos. People use Pinterest for a lot of different things. So how to what? Well, you're talking about how to market on Pinterest. So you might want to add the word marketing to this title.
That's good.
And then if we click through, there's no description here. So your board titles and descriptions are very important in search. So spend a lot of time on those.
Wow, those are good tips.
Yeah, thank you. Let's see. You do have your profile description, but I would add to it. You have quite a few more characters you could use.
Hmm.
Um, think keywords and search. So think about what your customers are looking for. Also, tell them what they're going to get from your Pinterest account.
Okay.
Let's see. And then like Facebook, you could do more with that. How to market your business on Facebook, or Facebook tips, or something a little bit more than that. Looking at your own pins, see some here. Okay, so you do not have rich pins, and I don't see any rich pins on this particular board, but I know there are some here. So uh, this is not a rich pin.
Right.
This is. So you can see this is. You can see the little icon. You can tell where it comes from. You can see the title. Um, Aside from standing out a bit in the feed, this cannot be changed by
Wow, that's
users. So
important. Yeah.
it really is, because people could change your description to anything they want to.
Hmm.
They could even change the URL if they were being bad, but they cannot change this.
Okay.
So by having rich pins, you are going to take a little ownership of your own content.
Rich pins and rich uncles. That's what we need. Got it.
Yes, perfect. So I think aside from that, I think that you're off to a pretty good start. You just need to pin, pin, pin all the things. And
Wow.
also, oh, the last thing, create a board for your blog, for the BuzzSumo blog. And the reason for that is I do this for all my clients, and consistently that board has the most followers of any board,
Wow.
right? Because I mean, you have 324 pins of your content on Pinterest, but in the overall scheme of things, that's not a whole lot. So this board of BuzzSumo blog posts is going to be fairly unique.
Hmm.
And Pinterest loves original content, and people love it. So it is going to become a go-to resource for people. So always pin all of your content to that blog. I know you haven't pinned all your content. So start by pinning it to a blog board, and then add it to any other applicable boards. And then go find some group boards to join.
Oh, that's good. Maybe I'm already pinning and you just don't know because it's a secret board. Take that, fairy godmother. Um, just kidding. Um,
Uh,
all right. So I'm going to go ahead and switch me back to, or you could switch me back to the presenter. That'd be great. So while she's doing
yeah.
that, I wanted to tell you that one thing that we're going to do is I'm going to work on the board. I'm going to take these suggestions that Elisa has made, and I'm going to start working on the BuzzSumo board. And then in a couple weeks, I'm going to send you a before and after. So you will get an inside look at the content that we're pinning. And you can tell me in that email if you think I've made an improvement or not. So let's go on. And, Elisa has covered a lot of things about how you can discover content, the types of things that you can pin. And so,
Okay, let me just break in for 1 second and let you
uh-huh.
know that we can see all the slides.
Oh, yeah, there we go. Thank you.
Yeah, okay,
Is that
all
better?
better. Yes.
All better. Yeah. So we're going to talk now about how to use BuzzSumo and the data that we provide to really improve the content that you're pinning on your site. So the first thing that I want to talk about is determining which types of keywords that are related to your product or service perform well on Pinterest. And so what I would suggest doing within BuzzSumo is, taking the list of the keywords that you're working with and plugging them into what we call our content analysis reports. The great thing about content analysis reports is that they will show you how the words are performing on individual social networks. So, for the topic gluten free, this is a content analysis report, and this covers the last year's content. We've analyzed more than 14,000 articles for this report. And what you can see here is that the topic gluten free is performing really well on Facebook. And in some ways, that's kind of a no brainer, but it is also performing really well on Pinterest. So that's good for me to know. Okay, gluten free is performing well on Pinterest. I can compare that then to a related keyword, celiac. And here I see that it is also performing best on Facebook, but it is not performing well at all on Pinterest. So if I'm going to develop a Pinterest strategy for my business, I'm going to want to work with the word gluten free and not with the word celiac. Now, the other thing that these content analysis reports do is that they show you the type of content that performs best on that network. So, what I'm seeing here is that on the term gluten free, infographics are performing best, followed by lists on Pinterest. So, I can use BuzzSumo to get a feel for the words related to my product or service that are performing best, and also the types of content that are performing best. Now, this is Cynthia Sanchez
This
from.
is that is
Mhm.
just a huge. I just have to break in and say on that previous one, that is huge. So you could make that that could help you to
Sorry.
that could help you to name your boards more effectively and
Uh,
absolutely help you to figure out what words to use in the description. So I hope that everybody will try that. I know I'm going to. I love this tip.
Good. Yeah. So another tip is from Cynthia Sanchez, and she says this: Pinterest looks at how many times a URL has been pinned as a quality factor. Perhaps it's good to wait to pin new content until it has built up a few pins by others and repin some of your popular pins that have already built up those links. So that's a great tip that if you are pinning content that has already been pinned, that is going to be seen as a quality factor for your board. So the great thing about BuzzSumo is that we give you some ways to find the content from different domains that has been most pinned. So this is a search that I did in our most shared section, and this is just for buzzsumo.com. And then I ordered the results so that I could see the content from our site that had gotten the most pins. And first of all, wow, there's such a huge discrepancy between this piece, which had 99 pins, and the next most pinned piece, which had only 6 pins. So, definitely, the first thing I did was I went to this part of our blog and I pinned it right away because now I'm pinning content that has gotten a lot of pins. Now, I also took a look at why we might have this huge discrepancy, and this is what I saw. If you click on the first piece that got the 99 pins, this is the graphic that you see. It's obviously visually appealing, and it's obviously, I think, um, given some thought to how to appear on Pinterest. This is the sad little pin selection for the second piece on that list. So I think that this also gives you an indication of how important the type of content that you pin is. Now, another way you can find content to pin that has gotten a lot of pins is to search by a topic area. So this is a most shared search for the topic stock photos. So if you're providing photos to designers or possibly services related to stock photos, you could do a search in BuzzSumo and we'll show you the most pinned content for that topic. Then you can add that to your board. This is that same search for gluten free. And I think it's so interesting too. Again, another example of how you can use this to find the most pinned content on a topic. So I've shown you you can use BuzzSumo to narrow down the keywords you want to use on each network. You can use it to find the most pinned content on your website, the most pinned content for your topic, and you can use it to see which content from your competitors is getting the most pins. This is a most shared search that I've set up just for several content marketing sites. And one little, I guess, time saving thing in BuzzSumo is you don't have to search for these individually. You can do searches for up to 5 domains at a time and then save those searches. So you don't have to log in and recreate this search over and over again. But what this is doing is showing me the content that's coming from my competitors that has gotten the most pins. So I can use that as example content. I can go see what they're doing that's getting a lot of attention, and I can also pin their content. Now, I wanted to talk with you just a little bit about how you can optimize your images for inclusion on Facebook. So we're going to switch. I'm sorry, on Facebook. What a horrible mistake. Anyway, so I'm going to show. Wrong webinar. I'm going to show you now a little bit. We're going to turn our attention from your boards themselves to your website and talk about how you can optimize content on your website for inclusion on Pinterest. So, the first thing you want to do is make sure that all of your blog posts contain a high quality image. No more of this only text based stuff. You have to have images on your website so that people can see an illustration of what you're talking about. You also need to make sure that you have images that are oriented as a portrait. So Pinterest really appeals and works best with tall photos. So you want images that are taller than they are wide. That's the Pinterest way. You also need to have a pin it button available so anyone who's at your site can pin your content. And you need to optimize your alt text. I'm going to show you in a minute how you can do this. It's really easy and it's really important in terms of having accurate descriptions for your content when it's pinned. A Pinterest widget is a great idea. You need to have a Pinterest follow button so that people don't have to go to Pinterest and leave your site to follow you. And you also need to enable rich pins. And one thing that is good to know about this is, this is a list of things that you should do. None of these are really difficult. So this is not going to take you thousands and thousands of hours of your time. Now, you may be like us at BuzzSumo and have a small problem when it comes to this. This is what our blog design is like. And so, if you look at this, you may notice that all of our blog images are set up as landscape photos. And that's really actually the way we like it. As without considering Pinterest, we like the look of this, and that's not really up as something that could be changed. So, if you have a similar situation, maybe a lot of your content includes landscape orientation images, there are a couple things that you can do. You can install a plugin. This one is from Social Warfare, and I think Elisa really recommends it. You can increase your success on Pinterest because you can create Pinterest specific images and descriptions using this plugin. So that's one option that's available. Another option is to create a Pinterest friendly image, which again, remember that means it's going to have a portrait orientation, taller than it is wide, high quality image, and you can also level up by writing something across that picture. So you can create that image and upload it into a WordPress site and then shrink it down to the tiniest little dot at the end of your post. So this is actually from a knowledge based post that I have on our BuzzSumo site, and it has this image, and these are just example images that I uploaded. But you see this little dot at the end? This is actually a Pinterest optimized image. And when you click on the pin button, it shows up as this really nice image that is going to be appealing to the Pinterest audience. So keep in mind you can shrink that down. Now, the other thing that I wanted to show you is just a little bit more about the types of images that appeal to people on Pinterest. So, this is an example of a most shared search within BuzzSumo for the most shared content on the topic gluten free. And I thought it was so fascinating because the most shared one it has 342,000 shares, but most of them happened on Facebook. The second most shared one has 326,000 shares, with most of them on Pinterest. So I got really curious about the difference between what appealed to the networks there. And so this is the piece that has the most shares overall about Amy's Kitchen. And just looking at it, you can see this is really not a piece that has been optimized for Pinterest. The first image here is landscape. It's not portrait orientation. And also, if you think about, Elisa pointed this out to me yesterday, if you think about the aspirational nature of Pinterest, this is not something that the audience is going to aspire to. You're appealing to an all vegetarian audience. This big burger with dripping cheese, although it is lunchtime, is not necessarily something that people in this audience are aspiring to. But look at this. Bam. This is the do it yourself gluten free instant noodle cup image, and it's perfect for Pinterest. It's beautiful, it's tall, and it also is something that people would probably aspire to more. Here's a little bit more about alt image text. I did get so excited about working on our Pinterest page. And so I went back into our blog and I saw this image. Or I saw this post and I was like, yes, I'll pin it. Well, I clicked the button and this is what I got. BuzzSumo Man OP. And I could not understand why I didn't have anything nifty on this. So I went to the back end of the site in WordPress and I noticed that we don't have any alt text here. All we have is this sort of wonky title and no alt text. So Pinterest, being helpful like that, was pulling the only thing it can find. And this is what it found. So make sure when you upload images that you optimize the alt text so that when Pinterest looks for what it should use to describe your site, it has something better to work with than BuzzSumo Man OP.
Very nicely done. Okay, so our sumo here is once again questioning. Um, well, yeah, I like to do a little something different with Pinterest, something a little backwards maybe, which is to create content strategies based on Pinterest. I mean,
Ooh.
usually it goes the other way around. The reason for that is that it worked so well without even trying to make it work on Pinterest. I thought, well, what if we catered to the Pinterest audience?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not saying you have to do this for, all the time, but it might be worth a try to build one piece of content, whether it's an ebook or whatever it is, around Pinterest. So if you wanted to do that, and you thought, well, I want to write about Pinterest marketing strategies for business, you would enter that in the search, then look at what comes up for pins. Look at what is working well. Look at the wording that is used, the style of image, and the type of content that works well. So this is, again, something that you could use very well with BuzzSumo to help you figure out what kind of content could I create that would be guaranteed to do well on Pinterest.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah, and then another thing you can do for that same objective is to look at which of your pins are doing really well right now. This is interesting. This is always interesting to me. That top pin there is always the top pin, and it is old. It's, I think, 2.5 years old. So your investment in Pinterest is not like Twitter where it goes away in a few seconds, or Facebook where it goes away in a few hours. You can actually keep getting activity off content that you have pinned years ago. So creating some content that you know will do well on Pinterest can often be a very good investment. Now, this is just from the last 30 days, but you can also sort by different time periods. So if you want to do something seasonal, look at what was working last year. And then craft titles around what works, and then use BuzzSumo to help you figure out what kind of content to use.
That's a good idea. Oh.
Lunchtime again, but yeah, this kind of really looks like your BuzzSumo guy.
This is our BuzzSumo guy on a bad day.
Yes. All you can eat spaghetti. Okay, so there are some behaviors on Pinterest which will get you no love at all. So we want to avoid those, and some of them are pretty obvious, but some not so much, like pinning an image that doesn't have a link, or pinning an image with broken links, or pinning an image that says it's going to talk about how to save money on groceries, but actually takes you to something that's not safe for work, or something completely unrelated. So you think, oh, well, I would never do that, but you might by accident if you repin a pin without checking. So always click on that pin, go through to the website, make sure it is what it says it is, because nothing will lose your followers' trust faster.
Good point.
That one's really important. Obviously, stealing images, not cool, but that doesn't mean just stealing images from blogs or grabbing them off Pinterest and using them. Stealing images also includes changing the link on a pin. So you can go in, if you're going to repin something, and change that source URL. So if you saw something, a beautiful pin, and you thought, well, I know people are clicking on this, and I would click on this, so I'd like it to go to my website. Not good. You're basically stealing. And then stealing credit. So if someone creates a beautiful pin to something that they have written, and you add a note in there to kind of give yourself credit for pinning it, that looks like you're saying I wrote it. So on Twitter or on Facebook, sometimes people will put like a hat tip to someone who brought the information to their attention, which that's great. But if on Pinterest you put something like, you repinned my pin and then said via at BuzzSumo, it looks like you wrote the article. People don't like that.
Yeah.
And then the last one, recreating entire boards. Might not seem so obvious, but if you think about it, if you find a really beautiful, useful board that's well curated and well done, someone has spent many hours on it, and you think, I'd like to have that same board. So you go and you create a board with the same title, the same description, and then you pin everything they pinned into it. That's really stealing their work.
Hmm.
So don't do that. The last thing is hashtags, which will not get you thrown in jail, but it's not going to help you either. So Pinterest has said, hashtags do not work the way they do on other networks. They confuse people. They do not help. So unless you're going to use a branded hashtag, like I'm doing a visual social media conference, so I might use VSMCon 2015. That's okay, but don't think that using keyword hashtags is going to help you, because it won't.
Those are great tips. Um, next it'd be super if you could just tell us about how to automate some of this process.
Yeah, so finding good stuff to pin. We already just briefly mentioned that the original content, that is non-repins,
Mm-hmm.
tend to do better. Pinterest likes them, users like them. So you can use Feedly, where you add in the blogs that you like to pin from, and you can even see like what's been shared most. So
Mm-hmm.
that saves you a little bit of time. But my favorite tool is Tailwind. My favorite Pinterest tool is Tailwind. So you add in the sites that you like over on the left, and it pops up all the new articles. You can sort it by recent or trending. And then it just takes 1 or 2 clicks to choose the image, change the description if you want, choose the board, and schedule.
Hmm.
I don't know how people successfully do Pinterest without Tailwind. It's fantastic. So aside from having your feed over there on the left, you can also do a search in the top, or you can ask Tailwind to recommend content by the title of your board. And this is a beta feature, so if you have Tailwind but you don't see it, you can contact the help department and they will turn it on for you. And I
That's
know you have a tip that I'm using now, and I'm so excited about it. So
Yeah, if you are using RSS feeds in any applications, either Tailwind or Feedly, you can create those feeds and make them very specific within the BuzzSumo content alert section. We give you the option to even get as granular as a specific author or content on a topic from one website. So you could really tailor your feeds to get just the right kind of content that you're looking for using the BuzzSumo content alerts and pairing it up with Tailwind or Feedly.
yeah, so I did that. I created a content alert in BuzzSumo for promoted pins, because I want to see all the articles that come out on promoted pins, and I stuck it in my Tailwind content discovery. So I'm very excited about that tip. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And now we have just a few other tips for you, and then we'll open it up for a minute or two to questions.
Okay, well, these are my favorite Pinterest resources. So Pin Chat is a Twitter chat on Wednesday nights with hashtag Pin Chat. It's also the best Facebook group ever. So I strongly recommend you request to join if you are interested in Pinterest and think you might have questions, because the support you'll get there is amazing. The Tailwind blog and the Tailwind platform is really, really helpful for Pinterest. So I would recommend checking that out. And then we have Jeff C. of the Manly Pinterest Tips Show, and Peg Fitzpatrick, who wrote The Art of Social Media,
Hmm.
and Vincent Ing, MCNG Marketing. He's like my Pinterest search go-to.
Hmm.
And then Susan Winter Jackson of Ahology. She's really good on all the technical things that are going on at Pinterest. So I would check all of them out. And then we have upcoming the Visual Social Media Conference. If you go to visualsocialmediaconference.com, enter the promo code BuzzSumo, you get
Yay.
15% discount. It's very affordable, but it's 2 days of online conference with some of the greatest people in visual social media. So it's a really great way to get started, and some very good time-saving tips. Or there's my podcast, Superheroes of Marketing. And yes, the conversation always comes around to Pinterest. And we're doing it on Blab now too, so you can join in there and ask your questions there. Oh, and I should mention that Tailwind is sponsoring our Visual Social Media Conference, but we left them long before.
That's good. Well, those are great places to look. And if you're like me and you feel a little challenged on the graphic design side of things and you're thinking, write on pictures and change the orientation and get them all the right size, no worries. PicMonkey is there for you, as is Canva. And you can see from this picture why I need so much help with my pictures because it's a little bit blurry. But anyway, Canva can help you to create great pictures, and so can PicMonkey. And I want to be sensitive to your time. I appreciate so much you being here. We want to thank Elisa for lending her expertise to people from BuzzSumo and across the web who are interested in using Pinterest. Now, if you want to get in touch with her, you can find her at Elisa M. Meredith at Twitter. You can also find me at Susan C. Moeller. And Elisa's blog is elisameredith.com. And you can also email me at susan@buzzsumo.com. So we do have one question. This is from Ian. He says, a question: are posts more likely to be shared on Pinterest if the main image at the top is portrait? I have landscape images at the top, but use social warfare to share a portrait. Wondering if this will result in fewer Pinterest shares as it's not immediately obvious that there's a Pinterest optimized image. That one is for you.
Ooh, that's a good. Yeah.
That's a good question.
Okay. Well, yeah. Um, you know, I think it's all about user experience and not just about Pinterest, which I know is kind of shocking to hear me say. But a very long, tall image at the top is probably not the best experience for your blog readers. Something that I do aside from, I also use social warfare, and I have a horizontal image at the top, have social warfare with a vertical image in the background. But at the bottom of the blog post, I will put a very nice Pinterest-sized image and just say, pin me. And I know that it works because I had somebody message me and say, I had to pin your image because it told me to. So, so I think that, yeah, maybe you get a little less by doing it that way, but I think overall it's worth it. And if you can make it easy other ways, I don't think it's going to hurt you.
Hmm.
Thanks, Ian.
Good. Well, thanks for that answer. That's really helpful for us too. And Kelly is asking, why would I want to share a competitor's piece of content? I still don't understand that part.
Ah, Kelly. Well, you would do that because if you were selling sparkly wedding shoes, you know your audience is also interested in flowers for their wedding, maybe wedding venues, wedding dresses, and you're not going to start a whole new business or create all kinds of content to fill all of their needs. So you may or may not have the bandwidth to write an ebook on choosing the best wedding venue. So if someone else has already done that, you can pin that content, and when people see that out in the feed, they will come back to you, they will see that you pinned it, and say, who is this person? And then find your beautiful sparkly wedding shoes.
Yeah, I also think that pinning content from a lot of different sources, and I'm not going to say we should go out and only pin content from our competitors, but if our competitors are good in an area I think it builds thought leadership to
Yep.
have your followers know that you are pinning and providing great content to them from around the web, wherever that comes. Um,
Right. And it kind of goes back to that quote from Cynthia Sanchez as well, where if Pinterest is looking at what you're pinning, the quality of it based on having it be pinned a lot. If your content's not pinned a lot, you should still pin it, but it may not boost your rankings as much as pinning some already well-known content.
Yeah. Good. Well, I think that's the end of the questions. And
Okay.
again, just thanks so much to everyone who listened in for the webinar. You'll get a link to the recording tomorrow. And thanks, Elisa, so much. We do appreciate your strong intervention on behalf of the BuzzSumo page
Thank you.
and on behalf of pinners the world over. So thanks again, everyone. Have a good afternoon. Bye bye.
Bye.